involved in. This is another myth which was created and constructed by the government, and I'm sorry to say a lot of the Sikhs are furthering this, including certain elements within the Navy textile. We have to recognize what the man stood for. He was a man of integrity, a man of conscience. In fact, I'll share something personal with you. When I was talking to Joyce Pettigrew, I went to see her in Scotland, and I asked her, she has studied Sikhs for 30 years. She has written, her first book was called Robber Nobleman, and since then she has written at least 30 articles on Sikhs in the last 30 years. And I asked her, I said, when you went to Punjab and you were interviewing all these guys in pre-84 phenomena, who do you think was the most sort of convincing Sikh? And I'm thinking she'll say Pindrawala, and she goes, Amrit Sikh. So I'm like, oh really? It's a bit disappointed in a sense. And then I said, why didn't you mention, what do you think of Pindrawala? She says, I don't even treat him as a man, he was beyond it. He actually could see through you. So you might call him rustic or not as educated, but he was very clear about what he was doing. So there's a myth about him that he was anti-Hindu or anti-government. It's all bullshit if you ask me. You look at the Batala Hindus, they used to come to him to solve their problems. You look at what he did before he became a prominent figure in Punjab politics and Indian politics. How did he rise to his fame? In 1977, what was he doing? He was in the Majha region of Punjab, where he was working against pornography. He was taking people off of drugs. That's why Malwa loved him. He was an actual social worker who made a lot of changes in the most underdeveloped region of Punjab. This is how he rose to fame. Not only was he assassinated, and we'll call him martyred, but now we are doing character assassination every day of General Pindrawala. This is the shame. Because people who are supposed to be celebrated and commemorated, we end up treating them as something less. And this is something we all should be very vigilant about. Okay, let's talk about humility of the Indian government. This is a statement by the General Sundarji on Operation Bluestar, the book. He said, we went inside the temple with humility in our heart and prayers on our lips. Oh really? Let's look at what really happened. This is printed in a book called Mrs. Gandhi's Last Battle. And they cite a testimony of a lady, Karnal Kaur. She said, a young mother of 3 children said, when people begged for water, some Jawans, who were the soldiers, Indian soldiers, told them to drink the mixture of blood and urine on the ground. Some humility, I suppose. Let's look at what they said about women and children. This is from the white paper on Punjab education, which is basically government's official report. They said, GOI stands for Government of India, no women or children were killed in the action by the troops. Pretty categorical statement. Okay, let's look at what happened. This is a statement from Associated Press. Only a week after when they went inside. And they said a team of doctors examined 400 corpses, including 100 women and 15 to 20 children, all under 5, including a 2-month-old baby. I mean, the facts, I think, speak for themselves. We don't need to manufacture anything from a Sikh perspective. The world media reported most of this stuff. We just need to be aware of this stuff, so we don't get taken into by the lies by the Indian government. They're saying no women or children are killed, and they're saying we'll examine 400 and 100 were women and 20 were children. Now, Seminar here is the name of a magazine. If you ask me, one of the few magazines in India which has a lot of integrity. I know most people are not even aware of it. They put out a monthly issue from New Delhi, and they did a whole issue on what happened in Punjab. And this is what they reported. Their issue was called Using the Army. And look at even the title they used. And they basically, and the articles written by, in that issue, the people who wrote articles are who's who of India. And I gave some of their names. Rustam Ji, Lieutenant General Thapar, S.K. Sinha, Jaswant Singh, who became a former minister. My point being that these are not the mouthpieces of government. They're actual activists and celebrated heroes in India. And their conclusion was, what happened in June 84 was badly manipulated and short-sighted political management by the rulers. Look at the verbiage. Badly manipulated, short-sighted political maneuver by the rulers. What this says is that even within the government, there was a dissent. and the ruling party, the rulers within the party, ended up taking this action. This was a conclusion by the most intellectual magazine available in India, and they're still running it. They do good. They have done about 3 issues on Sikhs. One was on 84, one was on later day Punjab militancy issues, and last year they did talk about Punjab economics. So I encourage those of you who are intellectually stimulant to go look up the issues and read the detailed articles by this magazine. Now let's get into the Army's position on this issue. This is taken from a book called Threat from Within, written by a Director General of Military Operations at Army Headquarters in 84. He says the manner in which the situation was being handled would only make it worse and may result in being dumped on the Army. What he's saying is that Army already told the Prime Minister's office, the way you are handling this situation is horrible and you will make a scapegoat. Guess what? It came true at some point. Second thing, the Army's involvement would have its ramifications within the Army and thereby the need to warn and prevent it. So they were saying that if you do this, there are Sikhs in the Army who will leave the Army, and we must not do this because it's a wrong thing to do. Guess what? It turned out to be true. There were Karmi Fajis, as they are called now, who left the Army because they said, I don't want to serve under the state which goes to go desecrate our own places. And the third thing, which is a direct quote, this is what Army said to the Prime Minister's office. We, which is Army, were of the opinion that Army should not be involved. The PMO, which is Prime Minister's office, response was, you have told me. He's like, yeah, I've heard you, but just go do what I'm telling you to do. So even within the Army, their official analysis concluded that this is a wrong thing to do. Even then, they were bypassed, and that's when this operation took off. Now, I want to give more details on the Army. General Arun Vaidya, he was the guy who was brought in from, some people say even from retirement, because a year before he had filed for retirement. Why was he brought back? Because he was a yes man. Because General Singh said, I will not do this. And this is again mentioned in a book called A Soldier Recalls. Vaidya was another interesting thing from a General T.S. Oberoi is that he believed Vaidya was a Sikh man. Here Sikh implied that he would do unethical things. So he had a track record. Again, this is what governments do. They look at your track record. If you have proven that you are willing to do certain things, for example, in the later day Punjab, why was KP Gill brought to Punjab as a Director General of Police? Because he had proven that he will kill any amount of people you want, and he had showed that in Assam. He had proven that he's a killing machine. So they brought him to Punjab. His relative, Gurchar and Jagat, had done the same thing, so they took him to Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, when the Chitti Singhpura thing happened, he was a DGP. Right after that, they removed him, and nobody knows where he was until 2-3 months later. So there's a lot of this kind of manipulation which government does with its army people who, if they show dissent, they remove them or transfer them, and they bring the yes man, even from retirement. And this is the interesting thing. I was talking to Brigadier Manjeet Singh, who was a hero of Jaffna War in Sri Lanka. And it's interesting what he was telling me, and I went to see him because I read a news article that he was court-martialed. I'm like, this is a good opportunity. When people are being court-martialed, we should talk to them because they'll tell us more information. So I went to his house in Chandigarh and I said, tell me what you know from 1984, because he was a colonel at the time. And his direct boss and a good friend was Sundarji, who was involved with the operations. And he basically said that Indian Army hasn't had an independent general since Sam Manekshaw, which was in 1971. That the policies change, and every general who comes at the highest level is a yes man of the Prime Minister. And he basically said that Sundarji confided to him. He agreed to do these things because if he said no, he would have been retired that day. Sundarji at the time was a Western Command head at Chetty Mandir. So the point is that the generals who choose to go do this, first of all, there was a first level of generals who refused to do it and they were retired. Then the second level was brought in, they agreed to do it, knowing that it was a wrong thing to do, but they said if we don't do this, we won't get promotion and we will be retired as well. So it became a very selfish motive to go do it, those who choose to do this. Okay, let's talk about a little bit more about Sundarji. There's a book written. He wrote a book, and the foreword to the book is written by his wife. And this is what's written in his book. After Operation Bluestar, his wife's name